August 20th, 2001.
Dirty water, choking air pollution, mushrooming slums.
We're going to have a major public health crisis here in the El Paso Juarez area like we've never seen before.
And what's causing it? Well, actually, economic success is causing it. A boom triggered by free trade where gleaming new factories churn out low-cost goods for American consumers.
The border does not affect the passage of air, the border does not affect water, the border does not affect viruses and bugs. Healthcare on one side matters on the other side.
Tonight, the new frontier, life along the Mexican border.
From ABC News, this is Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Here's the key to what's happening along the U.S.-Mexican border. Drawn by lucrative tax breaks and cheap labor, hundreds of the world's wealthiest companies have built manufacturing plants just south of the border. It's good business for the companies, which pay their Mexican employees less for a day's work than their American counterparts, for example, earn in an hour. But it's also a good deal for the Mexican factory workers, who are earning nearly triple the Mexican minimum wage. It's a big enough draw that over the past 5 years, more than 1 million Mexicans have moved to the border to work in one of these foreign-owned manufacturing plants. They call them maquiladoras. So where's the bad news? Well, particularly on the Mexican side of the border, that huge population growth has not been matched by a growth in basic services. More than 65% of the sewage generated daily goes untreated. About 12% of the people living on the Mexican side of the border have no reliable access to clean water. And while things, for example, are clearly worse in Juarez than they are on the other side of the border in El Paso, both cities are served by the same underground aquifer. And some studies are suggesting that quality water will become scarce in El Paso as in Juarez in as little as 5 years. From an economic point of view, the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, is doing just fine. But as Judy Muller now reports, it's brought some huge social problems with it.
This water truck on its weekly run through the arid slums of Ciudad Juarez could easily serve as a symbol for the post-NAFTA boom. It brings desperate people some relief, but the relief is short-lived and soon tainted with toxic dust. I came from Veracruz 3 years ago, says Patricia Martinez. There we had water but no work. Here we have work but no water. The Anapra Colonia is a sprawling neighborhood outside the main city. People live in deplorable conditions. The air smells of excrement and burning trash. And yet, the neighborhood is growing. People are coming here to work, says Filiberto Martinez. That's why I came. Back in the ranch, there is no water. The land is gone, and there is nothing to do. So people are running to the borders to get jobs. Martinez and his family are among the fortunate few who have escaped the slums and bought homes in Juarez. He did it with financial help from his American employer, Delphi, one of 400 U.S.-owned plants, or maquiladoras, in Juarez. My dreams are to be more in the maquila plant, he says. I started as an operator. Right now I am a technician. In the future, I want to be a supervisor. But these people also work for Delphi. They are stuck in the slums because they can't afford to get out. How much does Delphi pay you a day?
¿Cuánto les pagan diariamente a ustedes?
53.
That's $5 a day. He makes sensors for transmissions. She assembles brake parts. Their long hours and low pay means they can never get ahead. But that low pay also translates into low prices for Americans.
If Americans and other worldwide consumers look only at buying goods, whether it's a shirt or a car, at the absolutely lowest price, that simply pushes companies to pay as little as they can.
And to desperate people, a little is better than no pay at all. So they keep coming to border towns like Juarez, which is overwhelmed.
I think it's fair to say that most people in the United States and most people in Mexico really do not know what the border is like.
50,000 people come to Juarez every year looking for work. Most of them find it. What they don't find are basic services. 150,000 people have no water. 200,000 have no sewers. And every week the city grows by 3 more blocks. Medical problems are growing as well. Pediatrician Adrina Bramer is seeing more birth defects and illness.
We have found that indeed a lot of these problems can be caused because of pollution caused by maquiladoras. We have a lot of problems with the neural defects, the digestive malformations too.
The most common problems are respiratory ailments such as asthma.
What it means is that citizens of Ciudad Juarez are breathing unhealthy air, and this is the only metropolitan area in the U.S.-Mexico border that exceeds on carbon monoxide, particulate matter, and ozone.
Why doesn't the municipal government do something? After all, these new businesses thriving in Juarez do pay taxes. City officials complain that the Mexican government takes the lion's share.
Por cada peso que enviamos,
We produce in federal taxes about $1.5 billion, says the mayor. We get only 6% of that in return, adding, we don't get fair and just treatment from the federal government. And just across the border, the same complaint. El Paso officials say Washington has turned a deaf ear to the urgent needs of this booming frontier.
The very thing that NAFTA, wanted to create was commerce and cooperation on the border. If we don't get our infrastructure solved and together, including water, we're going to have some major problems on this border.
Even though El Paso has enough water right now, the two cities share a common aquifer which is rapidly being depleted. If current rates of growth continue, Juarez could run out of water in 10 years.
The border does not affect the passage of air, the border does not affect water, the border does not affect viruses and bugs. Health care on one side matters on the other side.
That's because this border is almost non-existent. 50,000 people cross the border every day, and 4,000 trucks add to the already serious air pollution. American Teamsters claim that a lot of those trucks from Mexico are unsafe.
And you'll see some of them where the tires are totally bald.
And U.S. inspections are cursory at best.
There are not enough people. There's not enough time. It would take hundreds of people to inspect this equipment and do it properly.
Of course, the Teamsters are also worried about losing jobs to cheaper Mexican labor. In El Paso, those worries are justified. A number of companies, like Levi Strauss, have moved south of the border.
They don't get paid as much as we do, so they get the jobs.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like it's not fair because we work as hard as they are.
In other words, Juarez's boom has been El Paso's bust. And there are colonias on the U.S. side that could easily pass for those in Juarez. At least here they have water. For now, conditions on both sides of the border could still get worse.
We're going to have a major public health crisis here in the El Paso Juarez area like we've never seen before. It's going to affect the whole economic development of this area.
Since the federal governments of both countries have failed to act, he says, officials in the two cities are taking matters into their own hands. Their survival could depend on it.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by GE.
The North American Free Trade Agreement, passed over 7.5 years ago, has blurred the borderline that separates the Texas city of El Paso and the Mexican city of Juarez, as Judy Muller explains in part 2 of her report.
Standing on a hill in El Paso, looking across the Rio Grande to Ciudad Juarez, it is difficult to see where one city ends and the other begins. And certainly the border is seamless when it comes to shared problems. NAFTA was supposed to address those problems.
Why have NAFTA? Why have free trade if you're not going to take care of the basic necessities like water and sewer?
The mayor of Juarez shares Archuleta's frustration at the failure of both federal governments to provide adequate help.
Ante esta falta de equidad,
There's no fairness in the way we are treated, he says. Therefore, we have to join in some kind of brotherhood. And so they teamed up behind the backs of their respective governments to increase the amount of treated wastewater Juarez can channel for agricultural purposes. This amounts to entering into an unauthorized agreement with a foreign power.
It's not legal, but at least, we're bringing these people, you might say, kicking and screaming to the table.
And there are signs that Washington is paying attention. The North American Development Bank, organized under the NAFTA treaty to help fund community projects, has financed this sewage treatment plant in Juarez.
Pollution knows no boundaries, and so what happens on this side of the border affects the U.S. side as well.
But the plant only serves a small fraction of the population. Tens of thousands of Juarez residents still have no sewers. On the other hand, workers at U.S.-owned maquiladoras enjoy better working conditions than many have ever known before, complete with on-staff medical treatment. Others must crowd into the few clinics available in this city overwhelmed with health problems. We have problems with all kinds of births, says Dr. Juan Gomez. 2 or 3 years ago, we had encephalitis and neural defects among people near factories along Rio Bravo, people who take showers with water from the river. Gomez is chief of medicine at a hospital built not by the government, but by a consortium of community groups. Such groups are stepping in wherever the government has failed to provide basic services. One is helping residents upgrade their homes with low-interest loans.
So far we have 700 loans in Ciudad Juarez, and in most of the cases, like 40%, they self-construction, so they do their work by themselves.
These efforts are truly a drop in the bucket given the flood of people pouring into Juarez.
Si la población no creciese,
the mayor says if the city doesn't grow a single inch or by one more inhabitant, with the current budget, we would need 30 years just to catch up. Mexican President Vicente Fox has promised to help, even though the mayor has heard such promises before. There has been a federal crackdown on smugglers who try to avoid paying taxes on goods by bribing customs officials.
Well, take out the corruption and encourage the people to come and pay the taxes instead of smuggling into, because it's affecting a lot our economy here in Mexico.
Passerette concedes that bribes are tempting to officers who don't earn a lot of money. Nevertheless,
I fired 43 people.
You have?
Yeah.
Just this year?
Just in these 3 months.
Passerette represents a new type of citizen in this new frontier along the border. He commutes to El Paso to bring his children to a private school there, using the express lane designed to speed the flow for commuters who make the trip on a daily basis.
Go to school, go to job, have lunch, have dinner, buy some goods.
And come back.
And come back, yeah.
That lifestyle is extremely attractive to a growing middle class.
Our children are U.S. citizens and we are Mexican citizens, so I think that we are really a binational family.
Rodriguez is an engineer at Delphi, where high-tech workers are increasingly in demand. He denies they are taking jobs away from U.S. workers.
We import 28 million components a day. That's roughly about 7 billion components a year. I think that helps maintain and create new jobs in the United States.
Across the river in El Paso, which has seen many jobs head south of the border, some companies are taking advantage of the enormous bilingual workforce. EchoStar has a huge service operation here for its satellite TV customers.
75% of our employee base right now is bilingual, and having Spanish-speaking customers, we need to have that employee that'll be able to communicate with them.
And government funding is helping retrain workers who were fired when their companies left town. Former textile workers, for example, are being trained as health claim examiners.
And on the medical field, you always got an opportunity to be growing up, and it's more positions to be filled, and it's like a lot better pay.
These success stories, however, do not begin to counter the enormous problems facing these border cities, especially in the colonias of Juarez. Those who study the new frontier say the jury is still out on free trade's overall impact.
Economists tend to view it as a positive. People who look at the social costs that tend to be a little more hidden are not at all sure.
The Martinez family, who bought a home with help from Delphi, have no complaints. They like what they see.
What do you like about your house? What do you like about your neighborhood?
La tele. I like my TV.
They are living not the American dream, but the border dream. And for better or worse, tens of thousands are lining up behind them. I'm Judy Muller for Nightline in Juarez.